Dolphins call each other by unique whistle names. Imagine them telling us the stories behind those names. Ants use sophisticated chemical trails for navigation. What if they could draw us maps to hidden resources? Crows remember human faces that posed a threat and warn others. Picture them giving witness testimony. Elephants revisit the bones of their deceased relatives. What if they could share their philosophies on life and death? The world as we know it would shift on its axis if we could truly, deeply converse with the myriad species sharing our planet. Entirely new scientific disciplines would bloom overnight, and existing ones would be revolutionized beyond recognition. Here are 10 such fields that would change everything. Number 10. Xenolinguistics and Decodable semiotics unveiled. Imagine for a moment the birth of a science dedicated not just to human language, but to every form of communication used by every living creature. This is xenolinguistics, or perhaps more broadly, cognitive semiotics, the study of how all animals create and understand meaning. Suddenly, the clicks of dolphins, the songs of whales, the waggle dances of bees, the chemical signals of ants, and the subtle postures of wolves would transform from fascinating behaviors into rich, decipherable languages. Scientists in this field would work like code breakers confronting an almost infinite library of alien texts. They would develop universal translation software, not just for sounds, but for scents, light patterns, electrical fields, and intricate body movements. The first breakthrough might be understanding the syntax of a raven's call, revealing a grammatical structure as complex as any human toddler's. We could learn that prairie dogs don't just have a call for danger, but specific words for human with a blue shirt walking slowly versus coyote approaching fast from the east. Think about the sheer diversity. We discover that some species of squid communicate using rapidly changing skin patterns that function like a visual alphabet, forming complex narratives about hunting trips or potential mates. Ant colonies might be found to use pheromonal bulletin boards where messages about food sources or new dangers are written in chemical sentences that persist for hours or even days. The field would explore how young animals learn their species-specific dialect, whether it's a baby bird mastering its song from its parents or a young octopus learning the precise chromatophore flash sequences from its peers. We could uncover linguistic fossils, ancient communicative patterns shared by distantly related species, hinting at a common ancestral form of expression. Perhaps most profoundly, xenolinguists and cognitive semioticians would investigate whether animals possess words for abstract concepts we believed were uniquely human, like justice, beauty, or tomorrow. We might find that a crow has a specific caw for unfair food distribution, or that an elephant's rumble can convey a sense of awe at a sunset. The very structure of their languages would offer windows into how they perceive and categorize the world, potentially revealing entirely new ways of thinking that human minds have never conceived. The field would catalog millions of languages, each with its own unique grammar, vocabulary, and expressive power, forever changing our understanding of what it means to communicate. Number 9. The sentient library of animalian history. History as we know it is predominantly human history, pieced together from written records, artifacts, and archaeological digs. But what if the living world around us held its own libraries, its own historians, its own eyewitness accounts spanning centuries, even millennia? With the ability to communicate with animals, a new field perhaps called deep history or cross-species oral traditions would emerge. Imagine interviewing a 200-year-old giant tortoise about the ecological changes it has witnessed in its lifetime on the Galapagos Islands, describing shifts in vegetation, the arrival of new species, and the subtle variations in climate long before human records began. Ancient parrots, some of which can live for nearly a century, might recount conversations they overheard in human households generations ago, offering unfiltered snippets of daily life from the past, or even revealing lost human dialects. Whales, with lifespans that can exceed a human's and complex songs that travel vast oceanic distances, could share their knowledge of pre-industrial ocean currents, ancient migration routes, and the sounds of seas untouched by engine noise. They might describe encounters with sailing ships from a completely different perspective, or tell tales of volcanic eruptions that reshaped the seabed centuries ago, passed down through generations of song. This field would involve ethno-historians carefully collecting and cross-referencing these animal accounts. We could learn about major environmental events, like ancient droughts or floods, from the collective memory of animal communities that survived them. Consider a colony of bats that has inhabited a specific cave for thousands of years. Their elders could describe the comings and goings of extinct megafauna, or the gradual encroachment of human settlements. We might discover that certain animal rituals or behaviors are in fact commemorations of significant historical events in their species' past, the meaning of which could finally be explained. Archaeological sites could be re-examined with entirely new insights. Imagine a beaver explaining the purpose of an ancient dam structure that baffled human scientists, or birds identifying the seeds found in a prehistoric human settlement and explaining their use. This field wouldn't just add animal perspectives to human history, it would unveil entirely separate, parallel histories of animal societies, their rises and falls, their great migrations, their influential leaders, and their cultural shifts, all narrated by the creatures who lived them. The very concept of prehistory would change, as a vast living archive of the past opens up to us. Number 8. Minds Unmasked. Comparative psychology, radically reimagined. For centuries, humans have observed animal behavior and inferred their thoughts and emotions. But what if we could simply ask? Comparative psychology, the study of animal minds, would undergo a complete metamorphosis. No longer reliant solely on mazes, puzzles, and behavioral observation, researchers could conduct direct interviews with their subjects. Imagine asking a dog to describe its dream, not just noting its twitching paws, but hearing a narrative of chasing squirrels through fields of an unusual color. Consider an octopus, an animal with a highly distributed nervous system, explaining its subjective experience of the world, how it feels to change color and texture, or how it perceives its 8 arms as both part of itself and as independent agents. Scientists could finally explore the true nature of animal consciousness and qualia, the raw feel of experience across an astonishing spectrum of life. Does a bee experience the redness of a poppy in the same way we do? Or is its perception of color something entirely different, perhaps tied to ultraviolet patterns invisible to us? This new comparative psychology would delve into metacognition, an animal's awareness of its own thought processes. We could ask a chimpanzee not just to solve a puzzle, but to explain its strategy, its moments of uncertainty, and its feeling of satisfaction upon finding the solution. The debate over animal self-awareness could be settled by asking animals directly about their sense of identity, their understanding of past and future selves. Do dolphins recognize themselves in a mirror because they have a concept of me? And if so, how do they define that me? The emotional lives of animals would be laid bare. We could learn if fish genuinely feel boredom in an unstimulating tank, or if insects experience something akin to joy when they find an abundant food source. Complex social emotions, like jealousy, empathy, or even a sense of fairness, could be explored through direct testimony. We might discover that a capuchin monkey who rejects an unequal reward isn't just acting on instinct, but on a consciously perceived injustice it can articulate. This field would map the cognitive and emotional landscapes of countless species, revealing a universe of minds, each unique, each with its own way of perceiving, thinking, and feeling the world. It would force us to redefine what intelligence means and to appreciate the sheer diversity of conscious experience on our planet. Number 7. The Animalian Social Tapestry. interspecies sociology, and political science. Human societies are complex with unwritten rules, intricate hierarchies, and diverse political systems. We study these through sociology and political science. If we could talk to animals, these disciplines would expand to encompass the entire animal kingdom, creating a vibrant field of interspecies sociology and political science. We could finally understand the true nuances of animal societies directly from their members. Imagine a wolf explaining the intricate rules of etiquette within its pack, the subtle signals that maintain hierarchy, or the process by which a new alpha pair is chosen. We could learn about the legal systems of a baboon troop, how they adjudicate disputes, punish transgressors, and maintain social order. Meerkat sentinels could describe the shared civic duty they feel, and how that responsibility is taught and enforced. The field would document the vast array of governance models in the animal world. Are some ant colonies democratic in their decision-making for new nest sites, as some research suggests? And if so, how do they vote or reach consensus through chemical debate? Do elephant matriarchs lead through wisdom and experience? And how is that authority recognized and passed down? Researchers could attend town hall meetings of prairie dog colonies, understanding their discussions about resource allocation or responses to external threats. The meaning behind complex animal rituals, which we currently observe with limited understanding, could be explained in full. Why do some birds engage in elaborate courtship dances? They could tell us if it's purely for mate selection, a display of fitness, a cultural tradition, or something far more complex involving lineage and social standing. We would learn about intergroup diplomacy. How do neighboring chimpanzee communities negotiate territory? Or how do different pods of orcas establish alliances or maintain rivalries? Concepts of family, kinship, and inheritance could be explored in new depth. Do whales have family sagas passed down through generations? Do birds teach their young specific cultural traditions beyond basic survival skills? This science would reveal the hidden social contracts, political intrigues, and cultural richness of societies that have coexisted with ours, largely invisible to us until now. We would discover that the world is not just full of organisms, but of organized, governed, and culturally distinct societies, each with its own story and its own way of life. Number 6. Nature's pharmacy. Animal-guided biomedical science and ethnobotany. Humans have long looked to nature for medicines, a field known as ethnobotany when studying traditional human knowledge of medicinal plants. But what if animals themselves are walking, flying, swimming encyclopedias of natural remedies? A new science, perhaps animal-derived pharmacology or sentient ethnobotany, would emerge where animals become our guides to nature's pharmacy. Pharmacognosy, the current study of how animals self-medicate, would be transformed from observation to direct consultation. We could ask a sick chimpanzee not just what bitter pith it's chewing, but why it chose that specific plant, what symptoms it's treating, and how it learned of its efficacy. Did its mother teach it? Did it learn through trial and error? Or is there a deeper, instinctual knowledge we can now access? Imagine a bear pointing out specific herbs it ingests to rid itself of parasites, or a bird showing researchers the types of clay it consumes to neutralize toxins in its diet. This field would involve scientists accompanying animals on foraging trips, specifically aimed at finding medicinal resources. We might discover that certain caterpillars selectively consume plants rich in alkaloids to make themselves poisonous to predators, and they could tell us which plants provide the most potent defense. Animals could reveal entirely new antibiotics, antiviral compounds, painkillers, or even substances that aid in wound healing, simply by showing us what they use. They might also reveal preventative healthcare strategies. Perhaps certain species regularly consume specific plants, not to treat illness, but to maintain health and boost their immune systems. Furthermore, animals might be able to diagnose conditions in themselves or their kin and explain their reasoning. An elephant matriarch might describe the subtle behavioral cues that indicate a youngster is unwell and what specific routes she seeks to help. This direct line to animal knowledge could revolutionize drug discovery, providing leads for treatments for human diseases that we never would have found on our own. The accumulated medicinal wisdom of millions of years of evolution, stored within the collective knowledge of the animal kingdom, would become accessible, potentially heralding a new golden age of natural medicine, guided by the planet's most experienced pharmacists. Number 5. Planetary pulse, eco-sentinels, and bioforecasting. We currently use technology and scientific models to monitor environmental health and predict natural disasters. But what if the animals living within those environments could give us direct, real-time, and incredibly nuanced reports? A new field, perhaps sentient environmental monitoring or bioforecasting, would utilize animals as our most sensitive and widespread network of ecological sentinels. Imagine migratory birds providing detailed accounts of changes in air quality along their thousands of mile-long routes, or describing the specific pollutants they encounter in different industrial zones. Fish and marine mammals could report on the exact nature and source of chemical spills in the ocean, the temperature shifts in their breeding grounds, or the increasing acidification of the water in far greater detail than our current sensors allow. Deep-sea creatures could describe conditions in parts of the ocean humanity has barely explored. On land, burrowing animals like moles or badgers could provide information about soil contamination or changes in groundwater levels directly from beneath our feet. This science would also revolutionize our ability to predict natural events. Animals are often more sensitive to the subtle precursors of earthquakes, tsunamis, or volcanic eruptions than our instruments. Instead of just observing anxious animal behavior, we could ask them what they are sensing. Dogs might describe the specific low-frequency rumbles or changes in telluric currents that precede an earthquake. Birds might explain the shifts in atmospheric pressure or infrasound that signal an approaching hurricane days before it makes landfall. Elephants could detail the vibrations they feel through the ground that herald a distant tsunami. Furthermore, animals would become crucial witnesses to the impacts of climate change. Polar bears could describe the thinning ice and its direct effect on their hunting success. Coral reef fish could explain exactly how rising water temperatures are affecting their food sources and shelter. Farmers could consult with local insect populations about subtle changes in plant health or the arrival of new pest species. This constant stream of information from the front lines of environmental change would provide an unprecedentedly detailed and immediate understanding of our planet's health, allowing for faster responses to crises and more informed conservation efforts, all guided by the lived experiences of our fellow inhabitants. Number 4. The conscious code, unlocking animalian, jurisprudence and rights. Our legal systems are designed by humans for humans. Concept of animal rights is debated by humans on behalf of animals. What if animals could speak for themselves within these systems? An entirely new branch of legal theory and practice, perhaps jurisprudence or interspecies advocacy, would emerge. Courts of law might hear testimony directly from animal witnesses. Imagine a parrot having witnessed a poaching incident, describing the perpetrators, or a farm animal testifying to conditions in an agricultural facility. This wouldn't just be about prosecuting crimes against animals. It would be about animals actively participating in the legal processes that affect their lives and environments. Animals could express consent or lack thereof regarding human activities. A community of monkeys could be consulted before a forest is logged for development, explaining the importance of that specific habitat to their survival and culture. Marine mammals could voice their distress and physiological impact from sonar testing or shipping noise, providing evidence for regulatory changes. This field would necessitate a radical rethinking of legal personhood and rights. If an animal can articulate its desires, its suffering, its understanding of fairness, what legal standing should it have? Philosophers and legal scholars would work with animal communicators to develop new ethical frameworks. What does animal welfare truly mean when defined by the animals themselves rather than by human interpretation? We might discover that certain species have their own innate concepts of justice, property, or territory that could inform interspecies treaties or agreements. Imagine negotiating land use with a pack of wolves, understanding their territorial boundaries and needs directly from them rather than simply imposing human-defined conservation areas. Animals could report environmental crimes like illegal dumping of toxins, providing crucial evidence that leads to prosecution. The very concept of guardianship could shift as animals become active participants in decisions about their own care, whether in zoos, sanctuaries, or even as companion animals. This direct communication would fundamentally challenge our anthropocentric legal traditions, forcing us to create systems that are more inclusive and just for all sentient beings. Number 3. Blueprints from nature. Animal-inclusive engineering and design. Humans design and build structures, tools, and cities based on our own needs and understanding of physics and materials. What if we could consult with the master builders and engineers of the natural world? A new field of animal-inclusive design and biomimetic engineering would arise, where animal input directly shapes our creations. Imagine architects collaborating with beavers to design more resilient and ecologically integrated flood defenses, learning their ancient techniques for dam construction and water management. Termites, renowned for their ability to build towering, climate-controlled mounds, could offer insights into passive cooling and ventilation systems for human buildings, potentially revolutionizing sustainable architecture. Birds, masters of aerodynamics, could explain the subtle mechanics of their flight, leading to breakthroughs in drone technology or more efficient aircraft design. We could ask spiders about the properties of their silk, not just analyzing it, but understanding from the spider itself how it produces different types for different functions, leading to new, super strong, lightweight materials. This collaborative approach would extend to creating environments for animals themselves. Zoo enclosures could be co-designed with their intended inhabitants, ensuring that every feature meets their physical, psychological, and social needs as articulated by them. Farms could be redesigned based on feedback from livestock, creating conditions that genuinely maximize their comfort and well-being. Even urban planning could be transformed, with cities incorporating green corridors and habitats designed in consultation with local wildlife to promote biodiversity and reduce human-animal conflict. We could develop tools and technologies that animals themselves could use or benefit from based on their direct requests or identified needs. Perhaps dolphins would request specific types of interactive enrichment devices, or guide dogs could provide more detailed feedback on the design of their harnesses and assistive technologies. By tapping into the millennia of evolved design wisdom held by animals, we would not only create more efficient and sustainable human technologies, but also foster a world where the built environment is more harmonious and beneficial. Number 2. Minds mended, interspecies psychiatry and holistic wellness. We try to understand and improve animal welfare, and veterinary medicine addresses physical ailments. But the inner psychological lives of animals, their anxieties, traumas, and joys, remain largely a matter of inference. If we could communicate, a new field of interspecies psychiatry and holistic wellness would blossom, allowing us to address animal mental health with unprecedented empathy and efficacy. Imagine a rescued dog from a traumatic background being able to describe its fears, its triggers, and the memories that haunt it. Therapists could then develop targeted behavioral and environmental interventions with the dog's active participation and feedback. Animals in zoos or sanctuaries could articulate feelings of boredom, stress, or social isolation, allowing caregivers to make precise adjustments to their environment, social groupings, or enrichment programs. We could finally understand the depth of grief an elephant feels when it loses a family member, or the anxiety a cat experiences during a thunderstorm directly from them. This field would allow us to learn about animal coping mechanisms. How do wild animals deal with chronic stress, from habitat loss or predation pressure? What are their natural resilience strategies? This knowledge could inform not only how we help animals, but also provide insights into human mental health. We could develop talk therapy equivalents for animals, creating safe spaces for them to express themselves and work through psychological distress. The impact of human actions on animals' psychological well-being would be starkly clear. Animals could report the stress caused by noise pollution, artificial lights, or even the emotional state of their human companions. This would lead to a much deeper understanding of our responsibilities toward the emotional lives of the animals we share our planet and homes with. We could also learn about positive mental states, what brings an animal joy, contentment, or a sense of purpose. This knowledge would be invaluable for creating truly enriching lives for animals under human care, moving beyond basic needs to foster genuine psychological flourishing, all guided by the voices of the animals themselves. Number 1. The Cerebral Symphony. Neurocondime correlates of shared understanding. Neuroscience currently studies animal brains to understand basic functions, often by comparing them to human brains. But if we could achieve true two-way communication, a revolutionary field focused on the neurocognitive correlates of shared understanding would emerge. Imagine scanning a dolphin's brain while it explains a complex social interaction and simultaneously scanning the human linguist's brain as they comprehend it. Scientists could pinpoint the specific neural networks activated in both species during successful interspecies communication. We could identify the brain regions in a dog that light up when it processes not just the tone of a command, but the semantic meaning of a newly learned complex sentence from its human companion. This would allow us to map how different brain structures across diverse species achieve similar cognitive feats, such as understanding, grammar, recalling memories based on verbal cues, or even engaging in abstract thought when discussing a concept like fairness with a primate. This advanced neuroethology would allow us to see in real time how an animal's brain processes and generates the rich tapestry of language we just unlocked. We could compare the neural activity of a bird composing a new song element with that of a human musician improvising a melody, searching for common neural signatures of creativity. When an animal describes an emotion, say, a cat explaining its feeling of contentment, researchers could observe the corresponding neural activity and compare it to human brain patterns for similar emotions, gaining profound insights into the universality or diversity of emotional experiences. We might discover entirely new forms of neural processing related to senses we don't possess, like a bat explaining its cha-cha experience, while scientists observe its auditory cortex, or an electric fish describing its perception of the world. This field would not just be about understanding animal brains in isolation, but about understanding the dynamic interacting neural processes that underpin the very act of two minds from two different species meeting and understanding one another, unlocking the deepest secrets of how thought and communication are encoded in living tissue across the vast spectrum of life.